I got this started, but it's running really rough. I've changed the elevation settings on the carburetor. I've kind of moved it all over the place. Doesn't seem to make any difference. Hi everyone, this is David. If you're new to our channel, thanks for joining us. My wife, Ninette, and our little kitten, Tansy, live full-time in our motorhome. I am by a freeway parked here right now, and so there is a little bit of noise. One of the things I wanted to look at today is, for some reason, my generator is not working. And even though I do the maintenance and things on it, my guess is it's a fuel pump, but it may just need to have the filters and change. So I have bought a new filter for fuel filter and a new air filter, so I'm going to change those. So as you can see here, my generator is built into my rig, which in most cases that's how it is on Class A's or B's, or sorry, not B's, C's, and some fifth wheels have it built in. This is an Onan. This unit happens to be about 24-25 years old, so it doesn't have air codes, doesn't have anything really that tells me what's going on. It's only got about 590 hours of time on it, so it's really relatively new in that sense. So it's kind of, just don't know. If I show you a little closer here, it has had something done here with this box. So they had some kind of problem with it before, and they replaced that box. The biggest key with these is getting this information right here. You want to know what kind of model it is, and then usually you're going to have to know what the serial number is if you're trying to order some parts for your generator. This is a Onan Marquis 7000, and it's been a nice little generator, and for some reason it's kind of not working right now, but I'm guessing again that it's probably something to do with the fuel pump. And so, but we're going to replace this fuel filter, and we're also going to replace the air filter, and then we'll check it out from there and see how it works. Okay, here are the parts that I purchased. So I've got an air filter and a gas filter. Alright, so I've also noticed that the wind is picking up a little bit, so hopefully you don't get any of that noise. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this clamp off of the fuel filter. So I'm going to do that real quick. And then we're just going to go ahead and unscrew. So we'll just undo the filter itself. So it's just the standard righty-tighty, lefty-loosey on this. Alright. That's just kind of the hose is turning inside or with the filter turning there. We're going to just take that off, and then we'll go ahead and... Alright, so we've got that off. You notice there was some tape on here before. This is, it's like Teflon. It's Teflon tape, but it's not the standard stuff used on plumbing. It's actually for gas. So if you're going to use Teflon tape, then make sure that you get the right kind. This particular one has some stuff on it already, so I don't need to have that this time, but just be aware of that. Okay, so this has got some little barbs on it, so I'm just going to kind of pull this off. Alright, so if you noticed, it had some little barbs right there. That's what's holding that on there. So then we're going to take the new one that's got the little barbs, and we're going to put that on there. Then we're going to take up our little, make sure that's in the right place. It's going to work, right? Then we're going to go ahead and put this back up there. We don't want to tighten up the clamp yet, because we need this hose to turn while we're screwing this filter back on. Now if you notice, this filter does say Onan on it, and so I kind of like to use the manufacturer parts. They are quite a bit more though, but I'd rather be a little safer than sorry. That's just my opinion. So you can do whichever way you feel. I mean, I got this off of Amazon. Sorry. There's not a lot of people that carry the right Onan parts. Usually you can get them at Camping World if you're someplace where there is a Camping World. In my particular case, being in Yuma, there's only a couple parts places here. So I checked with them, and none of them had this, you know, the right filter. And if you notice on this filter, there is a number, and so it's easy to. It's got a little number right here, so it's easy to just get on and put that number in and have it come up. So I'm just going to snug this up in this particular case, so I don't want any fuel leaks, and so we'll just kind of put that up there just to double check. Now if there is a leak there, all that will happen is you'll just see gas start leaking out a little bit. It's not going to be sucking air really, because I mean the gas is being pushed towards the carburetor. So if it's not quite tight enough, you can always come back after the fact to kind of take care of that a little bit. So same with your hose clamp. You want to snug that up, but you know, don't get over wildly on it. And then we're going to go ahead and replace this air filter here. So I'm going to use a wrench on that again, and there's a bolt that sits in there. Goes all the way from that side of the, right over on this side of the air filter, all the way through to the carburetor. So I don't know what size that nut is, so kind of experimenting here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take this off. It happened to be a 7/16. Just undoing the bolt that holds that on. It's just one bolt. So once you get it loose, it should just come off with your finger, but I'm going to just pull that out so I don't lose it. So it's just a single bolt. And take that air filter off. There is a hose that plugs into the back of here, and that's the difference between this setting here that's going between winter and summer. So if you look in here, if I pull this old filter out, you look inside, there's a little piece in here. I think you can see that right there. And when I move this back and forth, you can see how it plugs that up. So it's either going to, so when I'm in the winter mode, it's pulling from this hose, which happens to be the heat, or you know, coming from the engine and stuff, keeping the air warm. If I flip it the other direction, it's coming from this big hole, which is just pulling in fresh air. So that's what that does. Okay, now here's my old filter. So it's got this little sponge thing on there, which you can clean that, and sometimes, you know, you probably want to just clean it, and then you can clean the air filter if it's getting any junk in it. If you notice this one, it's actually getting a bunch of discolored here, so it's got a lot of, you know, probably fumes and stuff coming from the carburetors, kind of plugged it up a little bit. So that's why it's a good idea to replace those. So you'll notice our nice clean looking air filter. So we're gonna go ahead and put that back into this container, and if you look inside there, there's some little guide points, so it's just gonna kind of slide back in there. And once you have that in, you're done. Now all we're going to do is to put this back on, we're going to put it back in like this. This is how it goes back onto the carburetor. And you'll notice that this hose, we have to hook that in. So I'm just gonna, as I go to put this on, I'm gonna make sure that I get that pushed back into my filter, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and put that back on the end, and it's back on there. And then I'll put my bolt, and I'll just slide it through, and it'll just go back into right where it's supposed to. I'm just gonna go ahead and, for right now, I'm gonna hand tighten this. And then we'll go ahead and tighten it a little, snug it up with our wrench. So again, you know, the biggest thing here is we're snugging these up just so they don't come off there or, you know, undone while we're going down the road. They don't have to be overly tight. So alright, so that's done. So now we're going to go ahead and try starting this again, see if we get any further. We will have to, since it starts to pump, this doesn't have a primer on it, so as soon as I push the start button, it starts pushing gas through there. So sometimes it takes a little bit to get the gas back through the engine, so we're going to kind of try a little bit, see if this happens to make any difference for us. Started, but it's running really rough. I've changed the elevation settings on the carburetor. I've kind of moved it all over the place. Doesn't seem to make any difference. Alright, so I actually took the gas line off of the pump and I hooked a temporary one up that I bought over at AutoZone, and I've run that into this gas can. And I've put this seafoam additive in there, and I've put a whole bunch of it in, and then started the engine and let it run for a little bit, and I've just kind of been doing that a little bit to see if that'll help. So it's at least starting a lot easier, and it's running a little better, but I think there's still something else going on. So I'm going to remove the cover here and take a look inside. I've gone ahead and removed the screws out of this, and so this just kind of lifts up. It's pretty easy to get into, so that just lifts up and this pulls out. So just like that. So it shows me the inside here, and one of the first things I notice is, let me go ahead and pull the camera up here a lot closer. So right there, not really sure what's going on with that spark plug wire, but it's laying right on the exhaust line. So let's go ahead and pull that off and take a look at it. So this doesn't look very good. So where it was laying there on the exhaust line, it actually burned through to the copper portion of the ground, and then it actually broke the inside electrode wire that's going through there. So that's making a really poor connection going to this one spark plug on this one side. So I've gone ahead and got me a new spark plug wire over at O'Reilly. This is a universal one, same millimeter, same setup. The only difference here on the top side is the place where it goes into the coil. The old one had a 90-degree bend on it. This one doesn't, but there's nothing above the coil on the engine, so it's this will work. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and install that, and I'll be right back. All right, so you can see here that I've got the wire in, and it works nice. This is, I'll show you a picture. This is how it used to be, and it was laying across the exhaust. I didn't really pick up on that before. I remember when I first, I had to replace the carburetor on this, and I had to mess with the the governor wasn't connected, and so I had to figure out where it actually went. And so when I did, I remember just putting that in there, and at that point I must have laid that across that wire. So now if you look at this new picture with it in and everything, now it's actually, the wire's running a different way and it's above the governor, and so it won't be laying on that exhaust anymore. So now this will work a lot better. So I've gone ahead and put everything back together, screwed it all down tight. This will be the moment here. We're gonna go ahead and start it and let it run and see how we do. Starts a lot better. It's running a lot smoother now, so that's good. So I think that takes care of the problem. So a lot better setup. Well, that's it. I let the generator run for just almost 2 hours, exercising it, turning things on and off in the motorhome to create a load on the generator. It ran flawlessly, so I'm really happy with that particular repair. So let's go ahead and recap what we've figured out here. So I am fully self-contained. I have solar, I run it all the time, and so I very seldom ever run my generator, but my manufacturer says that I'm supposed to run it for a couple hours each month under load. And so when I went to do that this last time, it started up okay, but as soon as I put a load on it, then it started running really rough and cutting out and just having all kinds of problems. When we first bought this 3 years ago, it's actually almost over 3 years ago now, the generator wouldn't run, and it ended up being the carburetor, and I had to replace it. So I naturally thought back on that particular experience because it was kind of acting the same way, and so that's why I kind of went through a lot of the different steps I did, and ultimately it came down to just replacing a few parts. So I replaced the spark plugs, the gas filter, the air filter, let's see, and oh yeah, that C foam that I used to actually clean the carburetor. So I used a lot of that. None of that was caused any issues. That was all good stuff for it, so didn't do any damage there. And ultimately then the spark plug wire, which happened to be a $5 part from O'Reilly. So it took a little bit to diagnose and figure it all out, but I kind of got led down the wrong path because my past experience where I was, that I started watching some YouTubes and trying to figure out what was going on, and a lot of people had problems with their gas pump. So I was thinking that was probably a pump issue. It didn't act that way per se, because when I would crank it over, it would spray gas out really easily, so it didn't seem like it was having an issue. But sometimes if that filter gets clogged, then it wears that pump out, and so it looks like it might work, but it just can't create enough pressure for it to run. So anyway, ultimately $5 part. So you say, well, you wasted a few days because it's taken me a little bit of time to figure this all out. But if I put this in perspective, if I was to take this into the Cummins dealer, who takes care of the Onan generators, they charge $300 just to diagnose it, not counting anything else they do to it. So it was well worth my time to do it. I learned a lot, and hopefully you did too. Maybe this is something that will help you. If you have things that you want us to look at and check things out or make videos of, please let us know, and we'd be glad to look into that. Please subscribe to our channel, help us grow and get these videos out to people. We would appreciate that. I hope everything's going well with you, and we hope to see you down the road.